Hello everyone, this is MC Deck Discussions and I'm Abi Small, and today we have another deck discussion. This is with Angel, so this is part of the championship. We're in season 2, we're now in the championship games. This was for my first game, and this deck was built to take on Dark Beast, Expert Dark Beast. And so let's go ahead and get into the discussion. And one of the things I wanted to do here is, because I used all web warriors, that was the main theme of my drafts, but I had also drafted some aerial heroes. So I wanted to get a chance to play Angel, because I hadn't played Angel for quite a while. So I decided to go ahead and use Angel to take on Dark Beast. The deck is called Living on Cloud 9 and Arrow. Some of you may be familiar with the phrase Living on Cloud 9, which means you're, very happy. And then, so I just add and Arrow, because these are meant to be two possible allies that might stay out for most or all of the game. And in this case, I did have Cloud9 out for the vast majority of the game. So let's start with Cloud9. So we'll go to the allies right away here. So Cloud9 has this, first of all, it's a 3-cost ally, 1 attack, 1 thwart, 3 health, aerial and champion traits, and has this hero action, exhaust Cloud9, choose a player until the end of the phase. Each aerial character that player controls gets +1 thwart. So that, very handy. I did end up needing to use that a number of times. So it was helpful throughout the game when I was able to use it. And all of the allies in here are aerial allies that I added to the deck other than Nick Fury, and Psylocke is also not an aerial ally who comes in Angel's deck, but all the rest are. So that means of these 9 allies, seven of them are aerial. We might as well go to Arrow next. So I didn't actually, so I played 3 practice games, and as I mentioned in the gameplay video, I actually won the first 2 games and lost the third one. So what's funny is after I had refined the deck is when I actually lost, and I did pretty well in the first 2 games, but I still felt, things were pretty risky. But the time I lost, I actually had the best setup. So I had my deck all set up. It's just that, one of those cards that makes the villain scheme just happened at the wrong time. An advance popped up, villain schemed, game was over. So, and it was just like right after that, I felt like I'd start dominating the game. And then, so even though I lost, I decided to go ahead and go for it with the same deck and go up against Dark Beast for the official game, and it ended up working out, pretty well overall. So let's see. So Arrow then has an equivalent ability to Cloud9, but only for attacks instead, right? So otherwise, pretty much identical stats to Arrow, to Cloud9. Has this hero action, Aerial and Agent of Atlas traits. Hero action, exhaust Arrow, choose a player until the end of the phase. Each aerial character that player controls gets +1 ATK. So yeah, so I was kind of surprised that I didn't end up really using Arrow, but I ended up needing Cloud9's ability more. Okay. And then for the other allies, we had Adam Warlock. I didn't use Adam Warlock in the game that I recorded, but I did use him in one of the games that I had, practice games I played. So he has a really nice ability where after Adam Warlock attacks or thwarts, discard 1 card at random from your hand. If that card's printed resource has, the following, then you can, either remove 3 threat, physical resource. So different resources let you do different things, right? Heal 3 damage, deal 3 damage, or choose one of them if you get a wild. So that can be really effective, especially because you can mostly control what card remains in your hand by just playing your other cards first, and then you know what you're going to discard. Then we also had Cannonball. So Cannonball I did get a chance to play. So Cannonball is a pretty cool one in these decks that are heavily aerial carded. If you have a high percentage of aerial cards, and this deck obviously does, we have 7 aerial cards for allies, but also, a whole bunch of events that are aerial cards. So basically, all of his own events, let me see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, all 10 of those events of his own are all aerial cards. So that's 17 aerial cards right there. And then I think that might be all of the aerial cards. I don't think there are any others. Yes, so that's it. But that is a high percentage of aerial cards. So Cannonball has a really nice ability for that. So he has 3, he costs 3, 2 thwart, 2 attack, but he has 2 consequential for both. So, you know, you would lose him right away if you attacked or thwart with him without his interrupt. So he has aerial and X-Force traits. Interrupt: when Cannonball would take any amount of consequential damage, reduce that amount by X, where X is the number of arrow cards in your hand. So at a minimum, you want to have 1 aerial card so you can at least survive one of your attack or thwarts. But preferably you want to have 2 of them, because then he essentially attacks or thwarts twice in a row. And in some of the games, or at least one of the games, I did get to benefit from that multiple times, especially because of the use of Get Ready. So we'll get to the event soon enough. But other allies that we included, Hugin and Munin. So in the game that I played that was recorded, I did play Hugin and Munin, but I didn't bother using this response. I used the response actually only one time in all of the games, so mostly Hugin and Munin just served the purpose of being aerial. But it does have this response: after Hugin and Munin enter play, search the top 10 cards of the encounter deck for a minion and put it into play, engage with you. Ready 1 character for you control for each icon in that minion's boost area. So most of the games that I played, that wasn't really worth the risk. So there was only one time that I actually used that ability, but no matter what, it's a cheap card, has the aerial trait, so still a very useful card for the deck, just for that alone. And then Nick Fury, you know, mostly in there for the card draw. Psylocke, I tended not to play. Sunspot is a good character to play if playing from your hand. So we do have Make the Call in here. I might as well mention the events right now. So we have 2 copies of Get Ready, right? So 0 cost allows you to ready an ally. So that worked especially nicely for Cannonball. You know, if I did have a game where I was able to attack or thwart with Cannonball, take no consequential damage, play Get Ready, and go ahead and do it again. So that ends up being really nice. Okay. But coming back to Sunspot now. So when you play Sunspot from your hand, he has this response: after you play Sunspot from your hand, choose a player, deal 1 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with the chosen player for each energy resource used to pay for Sunspot. So that's pretty nice. So even though he costs 3 and can only take, you know, only has 2 health, he can be pretty valuable with that. So I had a number of games where I had at least 2 of those that I could use. And in the game that I recorded, I had 3. Admittedly, I only did 3 damage to the villain, but still, that was, you know, a nice amount of damage that I did to the villain. There were no minions out at the time. And that benefits from some of the resources here, in particular, the Power of Flight. So the Power of Flight generates an energy resource, but if you play an aerial card, and like I said, you know, 7 of those allies were aerial, then it will double the number of resources generated. So that automatically, with that Power of Flight, that generates 2 of those energy resources. And in the game that I played, when I played Sunspot, I might as well mention this now, I had Clarity of Purpose out, so I was able to exhaust that, generate a wild resource, so make that into another energy. So deal a full 3 damage. So it had pretty good opportunities to be able to play Sunspot, at least when he was in my hand, to deal that kind of damage. And then Vivian can have some nice abilities here, hero response. So I actually didn't get a chance to benefit from Vivian's ability, I don't think, in any of the games, which is too bad because there were characters with when defeateds on them that I could have avoided. So that would have been nice. But, you know, be able to use this after Vivian enters play, choose an attachment, non-elite minion or non-permanent side scheme. Until the end of the round, treat that card's printed text box as if it were blank. So certainly that would have been nice to have used it for that reason, but I didn't actually I think there might have been one game where I got a chance to actually apply that in a way that was helpful. But I think most of the games I didn't. In fact, I think in the game that I recorded, I played Vivian the very first round and just used her to attack, and she got defeated. But she did help me, with the setup in the game that was recorded. We already mentioned the added events, but I do want to mention Angel's ability here. Right, so why don't we start with the alter ego side, right? He has 3 recovery, 12 hit points, a hand size of 6, and has the regrowth ability, action, heal 1 damage from Worthington III, limit once per round. And then on the hero side, he's aerial and X-Force traded. He's mutant traded on the alter ego side. He has 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense, and that's just from his angel side, right? He has his 3rd side with Archangel. And on his Angel of Life side, he has response. After you play an aerial event, draw 1 card, limit once per phase. So really nice to get a chance to get a card draw when you play one of those aerial events. And, like I said, he has, 10 of these events altogether. So some really nice opportunities to get that card draw. And you can even get that if you're in alter ego side with the possibility of, which one is it? Aerial Agility, his defense card. Okay. And then when he's on his hero side, which isn't mentioned here, so I better just go ahead and search for it. Oh, that's funny. I searched for Dark Beast recently. So let me go ahead and search for Angel so we can see his hero side too, right? Because his abilities are certainly relevant here. All right, so his other hero side is Archangel, right? He has no thwart, 0 thwart. So he can still thwart, right? But just for 0. 2 attack, 3 defense, aerial and X-Force traded, and he has the Angel of Death ability, response. After you play an aerial event, deal damage to an enemy equal to that event's printed cost. So really valuable card here. My game would have lasted much longer if it weren't for this ability. And he has some 2-cost cards, 3-cost cards, and his defense, that's a 1-cost card. So I was able to trigger this ability pretty often. Now, he does have kind of a penalty here of an acceleration token. So that part's bad. The worst part about that part, actually, is the fact that I have a tendency to forget to use it. So that part can be problematic for me personally when I'm playing, is forgetting that I'm using it, at least when I'm playing the online version of the game instead of the physical cards, using dragon cards on the online. So with that, let's go ahead and now go back to the deck. Right, so you end up with plenty of opportunity to use either the card draw or that extra damage when you're playing his events, right? And so the adaptive plumage is really nice because if you are in Angel side, you can remove threat from a scheme and confuse the enemy, letting you have a chance to go down to alter ego side. And if you're on Archangel side, you deal 4 damage to an enemy and stun it, and then you're going to trigger the extra 3 damage from that ability. From Archangel's hero ability. And that can be nice because it's flexible. So you could deal that 3 extra damage to the villain or deal that 3 extra damage to a minion that happens to be out. And Dark Beast, he has 3 different environments that can be out, and one of them has Retaliate on it. And so the other advantage of, like, let's say you use this attack card here, and maybe you take out a minion, although I'd rather take the Retaliate most of the time and just go ahead and stun Dark Beast. But the extra damage that Angel does from his Archangel side is not an attack, so you just get that extra 3 damage from there without the extra attack on it. And then, you know what? I didn't double check to make sure that's not an attack. Yeah, let me double check on that. No, that's not an attack. Right? Angel of Death has its response, and there's no attack listed here. And it is limit once per phase. I can't remember if I said that part. All right, so now let's head back to the deck. All right, so that's it for this part. I already mentioned make the call, right? Just in case there's some newer players, right? You pay the printed cost. It's a 0-cost card. Pay the printed cost of an ally in any player's discard pile, in this case ours. Put that ally into play under your control. Use that quite a bit for Nick Fury in the game that I played. I already mentioned the get readies. And then for the player side schemes, I included call for backup, typically to get Nick Fury in to get the card draw for multiple reasons. Some of those reasons are for these events, but also, for part of the setup, we definitely want, there are some important supports that we want to get into play. So Nick Fury was very helpful for that. And then superpower training, and that was specifically to get techno-organic wings into play. That's the only card available for superpower training. So superpower training has this ability when defeated. First of all, it's a 1-cost card, player side scheme, 3 threat on it. So once you defeat it, each player may search their deck and discard pile for an identity-specific upgrade and put it into play. And so Techno-Organic Wings is the card that I wanted for that. And specifically, most of the time, I wanted to use it for the second ability. So it has this hero action. First of all, it's superpower and tech card. And then hero action, exhaust Techno-Organic Wings. If you are in Angel side, ready your hero, which I did actually find necessary because I got confused a number of times in the recorded game and other games too. So I did actually find that helpful, or stunned. Okay. And then, but on the Archangel side, you reduce the cost of the next aerial event card you play from your hand this phase by 2. That was for sure the most frequent usage I had in my games, was to reduce those costs. So really nice. So here you're able to reduce the cost of a card like Razor Dive that costs 3, deal your 6 damage, but it still has this printed cost of 3. So you can still trigger that extra 3 damage when you're on the Angel side. So end up dealing a total of 9 damage altogether for a card like that. So really nice being able to reduce those cards that cost 3. So Razor Dive costs 3. So does, Adaptive Plumage cost 3. So making him just 1-cost cards. And then he's got his 2-cost cards as well. Natural Flight, which is his 4 threat removal, and Metamorphosis that lets him change forms and then either remove threat or deal damage, which, by the way, the damage he deals is not attack damage when he uses Metamorphosis. So that can be nice too against like say in the example of Dark Beast, when Dark Beast had Retaliate, you won't take that Retaliate damage. All right, and then moving on then to the resources, we added the 3 doubles, and already mentioned the 2 Power of Flight, which help reduce the cost of aerial cards. And then for our supports, I never got Flight Squadron in the recorded game, but I did get it in most, if not all, of the other games. So might as well mention its ability. So you can only play if you have the aerial trait, so only when you're on your hero or in the 2 hero forms in this case. And there's max 1 team. This is a team card, so only max 1 per player. And then if each of your allies has the aerial trait, increase your ally limit by 1. And this card gains response after you play an aerial card. So any of the aerial cards, so either the allies or events, exhaust this card, then you can ready an ally you control. So it is a nice card to get out there, and most of the game I do only have aerial allies out, right? Nick Fury basically just gets out there real quickly, draws you cards, then he leaves, so then the rest of the time you have all aerials, and I rarely played Psylocke. I think in the 4 games I played, I only played once, so Psylocke wouldn't have been a factor there. So it was nice having that available to be able to ready something up. In fact, in one of the games that I played, I actually used it for Cloud9, where Cloud9 was actually the only ally I had. So what I did was I exhausted Cloud, because I had Flight Squadron in play. So I exhausted Cloud9 to get +1 thwart to the aerial characters, and then played an aerial card. And then I was able to go ahead and use this response and ready an ally I control. So then I was able to ready Cloud9 and then go ahead and thwart with her, so she could thwart for 2 instead. Okay. And then with get ready on top of that, so the combination of those being able to ready multiple times gave the potential for either with Arrow's ability to give +1 ATK or with Cloud9's ability to give +1 thwart. You could do that possibly multiple times, and all the other aerial characters that are out there would have that extra attack damage, have that extra ATK twice, or have the extra thwart twice. Okay. I didn't get that combination very often where I could get both of those. It just didn't work out overall, and certainly didn't work out in the recorded game. but it's nice when it happens, and it certainly had the potential with it. It's a little disappointing it didn't occur more often, but I've played a deck like this before with Angel, which I had forgotten about. Because I haven't played Angel for, gosh, it's been a really long time since I had played Angel, but I do remember really taking advantage of Cloud9 and Arrow's abilities in some of those other games I had played before I even started my channel, and using those abilities multiple times and getting great attack damage and thwarting. I think in this case, actually, Dark Beast is not the toughest villain, but tough enough that he's always bringing it, and I think I just never got a chance to set things up in a meaningful way to make that really happen in the 4 games that I played all together. Okay. All right, and then I had Resource Reserve, which I did get a chance to get that out and play during multiple games, not every game, but multiple games, including the recorded game, and has max 1 per player. Any player may spend the resource card that's tucked here as if it were in their hand, and you can put 1 resource card under here with this action. Exhaust Resource Reserve, tuck 1 resource card from your hand under here to a maximum of 1. So then you have it sitting there. So say you had an extra resource, and I chose to put this card in the deck because I had 7 resources altogether. So if I ever had an extra resource that wasn't particularly useful at the time, I would have the ability to tuck it here and use it for later. And then Team Building Exercise is the card that lets you reduce the cost of cards that have the same, when you're on the hero side, it's a hero action, that have the same traits as your hero. So he's Aerial and X-Force traded in his 2 hero sides. And so we have, like I said, 7 allies that all have Aerial. And then we had all of his own events that had Aerial as well, another 10 there. So we had plenty of cards that had the Aerial traits that we could use to take advantage of Team Building Exercise. And then lastly, we had the Soaring Acrobatics. Wasn't used in the game that I recorded, but I did definitely use it in others of the games. So it has this, you have play it under your player's control, max 1 per player. It costs 2. It's an upgrade. Hero action, when an aerial character you control uses a basic power, exhaust Soaring Acrobatics, that character gets +1 to that power for this use. So that was definitely very useful when I was able to get it into my games. All the discarding that Dark Beast made me do in the recorded game made it so that one kept getting discarded, or just unlucky timing of when it showed up in my hands. And then I did want to mention Worthington Industries. So this was a tough card to get maximum value out of, but it still has value even when you have to stay on your hero side. It just has better value in your alter ego side. So it has this action: exhaust Worthington Industries, shuffle 1 arrow card from your discard pile into your deck. If you're in an alter ego form, draw a card. So most of the games I got that into play, and I got to keep putting these events back into my deck and using them over and over again. So that actually was a highly effective strategy to continue to stun or confuse the villain. But Dark Beast, did make it tough to go into alter ego in most of the games that I played. The fact that he has, already you have 2 advances in the deck that can make him thwart. But when you go to alter ego side, he has 3 of those evil genius cards that can all make him thwart again as well. So I did have to be pretty careful overall when I went to alter ego side. So I didn't get to go to alter ego side as much as I would have wanted to, but I did. But no matter what, this card is a valuable card, and this deck is meant to be able to go to alter ego side because of his own abilities, his own cards, right? His own event cards, those adaptive Plumage cards, make that a real possibility. So against other villains, so I think this deck would have the possibility of being even more effective against other villains other than Dark Beast. All right, so that's it for the deck. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like or subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm happy to have conversations with people in the comment section. All right, have a good one, everybody.